Good morning. Welcome to the Essence of Transformation. This is episode 5, and my name is Kaolin. And we're going to be doing some tarot this morning and talking about tarot card decks and predictions and astrology and sun signs. So I hope that you enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. With what's going on in the world today, first of all, we have Mars in Cancer, which is really affecting us very, very deeply. There's a tremendous amount of anger. This is very much a post pandemic experience of emotion that had to be suspended during the pandemic because of other critical issues and urgent care issues. So now we're sort of getting more grounded, more centered in our emotions, and having to process what the pandemic has done to us, how we went through it, and what are our plans for the future. Now, with Mars in Cancer, Mars represents anger. It also represents the patriarchal aspect of our identities. It also represents a tremendous amount of energy. And one thing that people will be needing to be careful about in the next month or so, actually 2 months, is their anger. How do you express your anger? Should you express it or not? Is it a good time to deal with a serious conflict of issues in your relationships or not? Can anything be suspended? Can you leave something in suspension? And if so, it's wisest to try to be able to handle issues without confrontation. And that's a number one message, not only for the holiday season, but frankly, till February. For example, if you feel very much you need to look for a house, look for the house. Don't purchase it yet. Just wait. Give it a month or two. The world is changing. The country is changing. A lot that was going on has been hidden from us. It is now starting to come out day by day. It will be for the next few weeks. So we're needing to go through a lot of transitions because we've been deeply impacted by the politics of the times. And yet a lot of the politics and its impact are starting to dissolve and will be dissolving and changing. So there will be a time of unity. It's going to take some time. But meanwhile, we need to recognize how deeply politics has impacted our emotions, how deeply it has impacted our relationships, and most importantly, our relationship to ourselves independent of others. Another aspect of the times has to do with Pluto and what's going on in Pluto for all of us. We started serious Pluto transits in 2007. You might remember what you went through from 2007 onward. You might remember things that you thought would not be so important that are now becoming very important to you. You may have withheld stuff intentionally with the best of intentions, thinking it was the best thing for the family or a partnership or your business, and then learned since then that those particular issues have become extremely important and are needing to start to be really dealt with and cleared away so you can start a new beginning, so you can start fresh. Let's see, one other very important aspect of the times is the desire for harmony. The celestial influences upon us because they are very powerful. Your dream life could become more vivid. It could become more surprising. It could be even shocking. The aspect of life after death is becoming a very, very common theme in our times. And that is because the spirit influence of those who passed away, they're showing up very quickly. They have a lot to say. They are communicators. They're on the other side. You could say on the other veil, behind the veil, but they're coming forward and they're really wanting communication with their loved ones, and they don't want to be suppressed or oppressed. And your belief system has to do with how much you can access the information that they're willing to give you. Because when they come in, they are really giving you information that is from the celestial realm, and they're hoping that you're going to pay attention to them and allow yourself to stop believing in endings, in irrevocable endings, in endings that are devastating, in endings that assure you many years of grief. Part of it is the disbelief that your loved ones continue, but they do, and they do communicate with you. The more receptive you are to the communication, the more they have to offer. Your free will is always very important. So if your belief system is no, 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 I was told no, 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 then they can't come through to you. They can't. If your belief system is, well, this is really interesting. I had a dream about my uncle the other night, and it seemed to be really him, and he had this and that to say, and that ended up being true, well, then they're letting you know, start to open up more, open up a little more, because they have a lot more to share, a lot more to tell you, because love is always present. Love is always present. And that's what they want you to know. And love is always communication. So regarding tarot, I was interested in doing readings, and I'm hoping to do some today, and I just did one. And we're going to go into this also with sun signs. I want to mention Libras, especially right now for a moment, because they're going through really difficult times with balancing things out. Libras want things to be okay. However, they're often in situations where things are not okay, where there's a lot of conflicts around them. And this is a period in one's life where those conflicts have to be really dealt with. They have to be dealt with. It doesn't mean it's going to turn out okay overnight. It doesn't mean you need to be confrontational. It just means you want to remain conscious that you're in conflict. That's all. Just remain conscious. Because the denial will hurt, and it will cause more implosions. It will cause more conflicts. So remain. You have a right to your anger. You have a right to your anger. Libras, as children, were not allowed to get angry. They weren't. They may have been angry. They may have witnessed or experienced this stuff, and they were totally discouraged from expressing their anger. So everything in most Libras' upbringings has to do with everything being nice. Let's say there's a fire next door, and the parents go, oh, there's a fire. That's okay. It'll be okay. Everything's okay. And that's kind of part of the Libra upbringing is, no, it doesn't matter how bad it is. It's okay. It's going to be okay. So later on in life, especially after Saturn return, when you're 29 to 31, you start to, as a Libra, start to deal with the fact that things aren't okay. And when things aren't okay, they're really not okay. Now, why would you feel that way? Because you're not getting what you wanted. For one thing, you're not getting what you wanted, or you're possibly not getting what you needed. And this is in relation to anything. It could be a job. It could be an income. It can be a friendship. It can be anything. One thing I don't like in this culture is that everything is targeted toward the most profound, intimate relationships of your life. But that's not necessarily the case. Libras are ideological. Libras have a group dynamic ethic and compelling emotive aspect to their psychology, which is regarding group dynamics and wanting harmony. So Libras will do almost anything in order to create an environment of harmony. And right now, with Mars transiting Cancer, it is difficult to be in acceptance of anything that you feel you're contributing to that is not harmonious as a result. And this is one of the lessons. This is one of the lessons of the times for Librans. I also want to talk about Sagittarius for a second, because Sagittarians are going through a lot. All of us are. We're all going through a lot. We're going through a lot because our spirituality is having to become more important to us than other relationship dynamics. Our spirituality is having to have something to do with our self-esteem now. I'm not going to get into organized religious belief systems. Excuse me. I am going to say that what matters most is everyone's trying to function on the highest octave that they can. And of course, not everyone. Of course, there's pockets of the population who could care less and who will never do that and do the opposite, of course. But for those of us who are more inclined to desire peace and harmony in our lives and in the world, the demands of the times are such that we have to really look within. We must be introspective. We have to stand up for ourselves in a way that may not be typical. We need to allow that spiritual side of us to really matter, even if it's going to cost us something we do not want to give up. Even if it's going to cost us someone we do not want to give up. Okay? So it just means that the spiritual aspect of our identities is calling forth from us that we apply our intelligence, that we include spirituality in our vision boards, and that we allow our spirituality to really matter and to be expressed, and to let it be expressed anywhere in the family system, on the job, in academia, that you have a right to be expressing what you believe in. There's been a tremendous amount of censorship over the past few years. There's been an enormous amount of attention put on sexual addictions, women's bodies again. We're constantly being fed what's supposed to be most important to us. And these are the times in which life is demanding that we say no to many things and yes to who we are. Life is demanding that we show up, not as fragments of ourselves, but as who we honestly really are. And stop being afraid and don't be shy of being yourself. Don't be embarrassed about your belief. Allow yourself to be inspired and inspiring. Allow it. With tarot cards, there's a couple of cards that are kind of really each card is very interesting. There are 78 cards in a deck. You have the major arcana and the minor arcana. And what they're trying to tell you is what issues are coming up that are most important to you right now. They might be legal issues. They could be romantic issues. They can be financial issues. They could be issues having to do with children, creativity, your work. One that is really, really important is the Wheel of Fortune. So if the Wheel of Fortune turns up for you, if you're experimenting with decks right now and experimenting with this, the Wheel of Fortune simply means that no matter what's going on, no matter what the query really is about, life is coming forward and saying, you know what? This is it. This is it about this particular subject. This is it. This is your time. This is what's happening. This is what's going to happen, whether you're ready or not. Now, this can be very, very good news. Very, very good news. So sometimes people look at the Wheel of Fortune and go, Wheel of Fortune, I'm not sure I like that because it sounds like it's kind of out of my hands. Well, guess what? You're part of the co-creator of what's out of your hands or not. And the universe speaks through the tarot cards. And the universe is going, no, it's time for this particular change. So enjoy it. Sit back. It's happening. The Justice card is one that can often take you by surprise. You may have a legal issue going on, in which case the Justice card will come up, and it's going to tell you kind of what's happening. Is the hierarchy working? Is it working in your favor in this particular dispute or not? And it can certainly tell you the outcome of what's going on legally for you. The Hanged Man is one which means basically being in suspension. A lot of people do cards and they'll let them be reversed. I don't, because I believe that when you look at a reversal, well, frankly, because I'm a psychic, so I can see the reversal anyway, first spiritually, but I don't do reversal cards on purpose because people are very scared of, oh, it's a reverse, it's bad. If it's death, it's real physical death. And none of that is true. So with the Hangman, what it basically means is you're kind of in suspension about something. Something is not resolved just yet, and yet it's very, very important to you. And that's what the hangman would tell you. Regarding death, you'll get a death card, and it can be a physical death of someone. However, oftentimes it's completion. It's a completion on a particular subject in your life. It could be the culmination of a profession. It could be it could be anything symbolically that you've been undergoing on purpose, that you've been trying to make certain changes, and it could mean you've made those changes, so now it's time to move on. With death, there's always a birth. There's always something new. It's a transition. It is a transition. So when people see death cards, sometimes they go, oh, death. That's scary. And of course, it can also be a physical death of someone. It can be, but the rest of the cards will tell you if it's something to take literally or is it something that is symbolic. And then there's the temperance card, and the temperance card is about keeping things in moderation, and that life will do that for you. So let's say you're in a cycle of extremes and you know it, and you are being very willful about something and very determined, and you're refusing to look at the other side of a situation or an outcome. Temperance will come up and go, you got to chill out. You just have to, because life's not going to give it to you that way. That's not what's happening. What is happening is chilling out. What is happening is go into some state of moderation. If it means more meditation, meditate. But you got to kind of get off this obsession, because life's going to unfold in a very specific way, and it may not be according to your plans. Then you have the Devil card, and that's another powerful card, which means, of course, different degrees of negativity impacting you or impacting the situation. It can mean addiction. Often it means addictions, because the addictions are from the lower dimensional frequencies in our lives. We're all energy. We all are comprised of energy and frequencies. And of course, addictions are lower dimensional frequencies. So the Devil card will say you're being deeply impacted by a compulsion or an addiction. And it doesn't have to be alcohol or drugs. It can be an idea. It can be a belief that you're refusing to disassemble. It could be an extreme prejudice, an extreme bias. So certainly the devil implicates you regarding some kind of a negative influence or force upon you that you're wanting to dissolve, and you can. Then you have the Tower. So the Tower is something most everybody's scared of getting, especially if they're going through a really good cycle and they're just hoping for really good, happy news. And that might be part of a reading, even if a Tower is in it. But the Tower is really deeply influenced by Pluto in astrology. And Pluto is the undercurrent of things. It's that thing that we can't taste, but we can feel it. If we stand out in a field and let the earth go to our feet, through our feet, and through our bodies, and we feel the earth and its impact upon us. The Tower is a card that says whatever you're convinced is true right now is going to be really challenged. It's going to be challenged whether you want it to be challenged or not. In occult sciences and in the esoteric realms, one of the things that you learn is you have to relinquish some degree of control over your life. When you get involved, even in prayer or faith, you're doing that. You're going, well, I was going in this direction, I was satisfied, and then this Tower card showed up, and it kind of blew my plans out, just blew it out. And now, what astrologically is going on is Pluto is coming and saying, it's time for a change. It's time for a deep change. And only with deep change will you start to develop in the ways in which, as far as esotericism is concerned, as far as the esoteric world is concerned, or the universe, you're meant to be moving into this other direction. And that's what the Tower sort of says is, no, you're meant for something else. We're all individuals and we're all meant for something else. We are all moving and growing at a pace that really is determined by divine intervention. And the Tower reminds you that, well, this is going to be deep. It's deep. There's no avoiding how deep this is. But the outcome is up to you in terms of how you perceive what you're undergoing, and then the choices you make about it. Is it going to have power over you, or is it simply going to mean change, in which case you are becoming more empowered? And that depends on how you go through those particular changes. Hello, how are you? This is the Essence of Transformation.
Hi, Kaolin.
Hi. Is this Theresa?
Hi, I'm here with Bob, and he's interested in a tarot reading.
Well, that is beautiful. I love it. Hi. Hello, Bob. It's so good to hear you. It's so good.
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Good.
He's nervous.
He's nervous.
I'll do it with him.
Okay.
Okay, great. Well, I'm just shuffling. Good.
What's that, Kay?
I'm shuffling the deck just for a second, okay? And it's just going to take me a minute. But it's so good to hear your voices. How wonderful. Good.
Awesome.
And I'm just going to, Bob, I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm simply going to pull out the cards and tell you what I think is going on, okay?
Be sure.
And I already know
He's just waking up. So.
Well, aren't we all? We're all just waking up.
He says it's not bad.
All right. So what we have here basically is an experience with really work, a lot of work. Lots of work is coming up about you, okay? And you're looking it all over. And you're kind of hanging out on the side of it going, oh, my God, you know? Oh, my God. And,
Yeah.
yes, and also that it's really been exhausting because I have the 9 of Wands here. This is what the card is. So it shows like a bandage on the head, just saying, oh, man, you know? kind of getting tired. And it's okay, but this is the first card coming up for you about that. What is coming in is a Knight of Wands, which means basically your own chivalrous attitude about your work, okay? Because you really have this kind of incredible imperative about your commitment to your work. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It's extremely idealistic. It is the Knight of Wands, so it's royalty. So you go in there into your job like everything is the most important thing in the world to you each time you show up. Everything is. You put 1,000% into it. 1,000%. Then you have your 5 of Wands, which means right now, again, that's work, that you're kind of a different level of you is getting really fatigued from that, though, okay? Which means the perception of its value is changing. It's undergoing changes, right? And there are changes that one could resist, these changes. However, we'll move on and see what else is going on. However, the benefits of what you're doing far outweigh not doing it or doing less of it right now. The benefits far outweigh that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So it means you're going to really keep it up. Then you have the 10 of Wands, which means you're carrying the 10 of Wands. The 10s are all you can have. That's the most you can have. And you're carrying the whole thing. You're not going to really let go of anything just yet. You're not going to. But you can still envision doing that. You can still try to allow yourself to think that way because you've actually completed a work cycle that's totally outrageous. You've been completing it. It's totally outrageous. Another thing is you have the Hermit, which means you're needing to spend time alone. You're really needing to spend time alone, more so than you have. So you're needing to process these transitions that you're undergoing more. So, and if you can do that, if you can find a way to do it where you're at ease and you're comfortable with your time alone, that's what you need to do. And you also
Yep, that's good.
great. And you have the King of Coins, which means everything's going smoothly. Nothing's going to come in to just to disrupt you. Nothing will come in and disrupt you about this. But it is going to require more strength. This next cycle right now already is requiring more strength from you. All right? Because there's been a huge setback, okay? I have the death card here, okay? That's a huge setback, a huge disappointment that you're undergoing already. Okay? So you may need more time to yourself to get it together emotionally for what's going on. But the next card is the 10 of Cups, which is family. So it's telling you, don't lose faith. It's all going to be okay. Whatever is going on right now that has required this disappointment, right? It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's absolutely going to be fine. This is the best possible card that one can get.
Good.
All right?
Yep.
Okay. Does that seem to resonate with anything for you?
Yeah, sure. My feet.
Okay. All right, good.
That's the setback.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in terms of that also, because just from an esoteric perspective about our bodies, and this is just for, of course, for everybody, everything I say is for everybody. When you have injuries to your feet, oftentimes it means you're resisting moving forward, usually psychologically. Okay? So, and this is true, let's say for our hands. If it was an injury with the hands or the wrist, then you're convinced you can't handle, you're convinced you can't handle something. Okay? And our body and our body parts tell us what to pay attention to. So let's say you trip and you stub your toe. That's a way in which, let's say, the universe or the divine is saying, you're a little resistant to moving forward here. You know, you're resistant to standing on your own 2 feet right now. And then why is that? And then can you get rid of that resistance? If so, it is possible that any condition can frankly heal. But sometimes we have to be more self-determining in terms of our physical bodies, right? Sometimes. So that's kind of what that is about. I think one of the biggest things with you right now, for me, as far as I'm concerned, with the readings, is you're surrounded by love, which is important. And also, you have such a commitment to your work. Again, I'm getting the Page of Rods here again. You have such an outrageous commitment to your work that in a way, that's going to remain no matter what's happening to you. You're not going to relinquish that at all right now. Not at all. That's not something you're willing to make a change about at all. And that's good. Yeah?
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess with that is a lot of sacrifice, because if there can't be a change in that area, then there's a certain level of tension that could be taking its toll on your body. And then that's something to think about, how you might need more time for yourself, You know what I mean? You might need to learn how to meditate a little more, how to really relax. And another thing with you is not to feel responsible for everything. Just don't. Does that make any sense?
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Yep.
feel
It does.
responsible.
Thank you.
Do not be guilty. You're guilty of nothing. Do not consider yourself responsible for everything that's happening. And that's really, really important because I get that from you very strongly, that you really feel responsible for stuff that happened 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Somehow or other, you've internalized it to feel like,
Yeah.
if you had,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of us, as we go through life, of course, we're going to be reflective. And of course, we're going to see what we hadn't seen before, right? Because we don't see the outcome till later. We don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
But you remember that entire experience, your life is the first time around for you. There's no reason for you to have known more. There is no reason for you to have done something else. Do you understand what I mean?
Yep.
You're not responsible. And people are responsible for themselves. They're responsible to themselves and for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
All we can do is love one another and kind of go through the journey together as best we can. But people are their own decision makers. So I think one of the major points of this reading is to take the guilt off, take it off, just drop it. Just drop it. Because really, I can see the whole thing, and you're not responsible. You're not responsible. We can be responsible to people, but we're not responsible for them.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
True?
True.
And really, when you sit down and you think about it for a while and allow yourself to think about it, allow yourself to self-care about it. Because if it's not serving you, you need to change how you're looking back. You need to change it if it's not serving you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then it's perception. And then it's self-forgiveness, which we all undergo. We all have to go through that. We all have to go through self-forgiveness. When we don't like how certain things have turned out, the only way to go through that is self-forgiveness. Just, well, gee, But,
Mm-hmm.
But, and just be more self-accepting, frankly, of that. And we do the best we can.
That's right.
You do the best you can. But also, in all of our lives, anything that's unpleasant is going to hurt us. Period. But just be hurt, but don't be guilty. Just drop the guilt. If that's possible.
Uh-huh.
Just drop the guilt. It's not serving you. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. It's wonderful to hear from you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
It really is. Okay. Take good care then. We'll see.
Yeah, that's no.
Thanks, Kay.
You all
Thank
good?
you.
Okay, beautiful. Take good care then. Thanks for calling in. I love it. So that was wonderful to hear from Bob. I'm going to move on and talk about the star for a second, because the star is another very important tarot card. And in the star, and it never fails in readings, when people see the star, they're like, oh, great. Their hearts open up, big smile on their face. Yay. And that's a wonderful thing, because the star does mean it's all cool. Everything is good. It can't get better than that. So if you're looking for something specific after a time in which you've been wounded, and all of us are wounded, we all come into the world wounded or we wouldn't be here. No one's going to visit this planet, let alone live on it, unless they're already wounded. So, in the planet here right now, what we're trying to do is to heal our wounds and be in our lives with people who help us and contribute to that. And in fact, one of the very important planets is referred to as the wounded healer. And right now, the planet is has shown us the devastation that we participated in destroying it, and also asking us to please heal it. And if we don't, we'll be gone. The planet will remain, but we'll be gone. So there's two choices here. In a reading, when the star comes up, it does mean this is cool. It's all cool. You are getting what you wanted. I love that card. I love that card so much. And then we have the moon. And the moon is what's hidden in us emotionally when we get here. We all have a moon. We have a sun, ascendant, a moon, and we have 9 other planets that are distinctly unique to us in each person, each individual, according to the time that we're born. So with the moon, you might have your moon in Cancer, which would mean you're kind of emotional. You like to withdraw a little emotionally in situations. You don't necessarily like to reveal yourself right away to people. And also, if your feelings get hurt, you're going to go like a crab into the shell and just hide out for a while and then come out when you feel better. And it's a very important part of how people see us, and people need to relate to that a lot. We all have the sun, the ascendant, and the moon. The sun is our fundamental personality, which sometimes takes 20 or 25 years to come out, because most of us respond to the conditioning of our family lives, our parents' desires for us, and the stipulations regarding behavior and everything. And then by the time we're 20 or 25, we've lived through enough where if our sun sign had been suppressed in that environment, we will find expression for it. So let's say you are a Taurus. If you're a sun Taurus, then you're born to a very strong mother figure. The mother is more important to you than the father. The father is often not physically or emotionally or spiritually present for a variety of reasons. So, and sometimes you'll know what the reason is when you're a child, and sometimes you really won't know until you're an adult. There's always an element of mystery with the father of a Taurian child. What you learn as a Taurus is the value of things, that things are really of value, and they're very important to you. And there's a lot of suppressed rage in the family dynamic. So really, for so much of your life, you try to figure out when can you get angry, where can you get angry, how angry can you get. Now, in personal relationships, you're wonderful. You know, you're usually extremely talented. People are drawn to you. And one of the issues, however, is when you suppress your anger and then all of a sudden 2 months later you're angry and you let things go, and then you go to the person, you go, on October 31st in 1999, you did this, and I never forgot it. And the person's like shocked. They're like, you never mentioned anything. I didn't know that mattered to you at all. And part of your anger system is, sure, that mattered to me. So what you do is you take and you withhold. One of the ways in which it hurts the body is in the stomach, because the stomach is the judgment center. So if you're withholding things of value to you, you could have stomach issues, and many Taurians do. However, when you start to learn how to express what really has deeply wounded you or hurt you, and to try to do it within a time frame which is more current for whomever you're having issues with, that helps. And it helps on the job. It helps in every sense of the word. If you have, say, an ascendant, let's say you're a Taurus with an ascendant that might be Gemini. Gemini is very witty. They're very fun. They like a good sense of humor. They like a good joke. And many times there'll be places where people really rely upon them having a really light touch to situations that can be very, very heavy and very dense. So, and then if you have your moon in Cancer, then so for a Taurian, it's an earth sign. It's a mother dominated sign, which means the mother meant more to that Taurian than the father. And the ascendant might be Gemini, which is a male dominated sign, which is will give them a strong, impactful intelligence that can balance back and forth different dualities, because that's really what Geminis are doing, and that is what they're called forth to do. So, and then you might have your moon in Cancer, in which case you may withdraw even more, because Taurians tend to withdraw, so your sun sign does, and your emotional responses to situations is Cancer, which is withdrawing. So, coming out and learning how to come out and learning when to and where to and with whom you can trust becomes very, very important. Mars is in Cancer right now for everybody collectively. It is in opposition to Pluto in Aquarius, which is now in Aquarius. So it had been in Capricorn for years, and now it's in Aquarius, which is lighter. So even the heavier aspects of our identities, the heavier parts of our plans for the future, our hopes and our dreams, the real heavy part of all of that is now in Aquarius, which is a fixed sign. It is an intellectual sign. It's an air sign. And so an expansion of consciousness comes with it, a desire to be very decisive in life, a desire to be fixed. You want certain patterns of behavior to be normal now. You don't want them to be abnormal. So Aquarius comes in with this expansion of consciousness, and yet they rely very deeply upon tradition, very deeply. And Aquarians are going through really, really dreadful times right now. They're being called out on stuff that they had hoped wouldn't end up being important to others. They are being held accountable for stuff. It's such a cleaning of Aquarian personalities going on right now, such a cleansing, a purification process. It's kind of sad, I have to say. As a reader, it's sad. It's very, very hard. Aquarians like to be impersonal. They like to think that the person down the block is as important as the person in bed with them. But there are distinctions, and no one make that clearer to an Aquarian than the person who's in bed with them. No one. So Aquarians like to be philosophical. They're more comfortable in their heads. And they're hoping that the people around them are too, so that the demands of any relationship to an Aquarian will be pretty permissive, like, oh, they're just kind of spaced out. Well, they just see it this way. Oh, that's okay. They're high. But what's happening right now is it's not okay, and it's not going to be okay. And people are going to be calling Aquarians out for the next couple of months in terms of putting that essential core, substantial, physical, incarnate, downloaded identity of themselves forward. They have to integrate it now. It's got to get integrated. Not everybody is interested in your trauma, period. That's not the way to open up relationships. No one's going to bother competing with you regarding your trauma. That's not going to happen. That's not how to form relationships now. Things have changed, and people are also changing. All of us are changing. What worked 3 years ago is not working this year in 25. It's not going to work. Does it mean you disband or dismiss or dispose of? No. It means you grow. It means you grow in areas that you've never grown before. It means you consider things you've never considered an option before. Why? Because you're committed to your wellness and your wholeness. And when you're committed to your own wellness and wholeness, you're committed to other people's wellness and wholeness. And that's where our expectations are going. Our expectations are going in terms of not being so mentally present as being emotionally heart-centered and soul-wise present. And this is what's happening to the culture now, to a lot of the culture. These are the demands of the times upon us spiritually. We cannot hide behind our cultures. We cannot hide behind our privilege. We cannot hide behind our deprivation. We cannot hide behind what happened to us when we were 3 years old. As a culture, we've been moving through these different degrees of separation and unity and fragmentation and wholeness, and we've been moving through it and shuffling through it for decades. Where are we now? We're at a point of completion. We're at a point where the old is finally old, and where there are many things we cannot take with us. This is a new age. The earth ascended several years ago into the higher dimensions. And the higher dimensions of the beings out there in the galactical world are lowered, and they're with us now. They're walking on the path with us. We're not alone. Human beings have been extremely egocentric, in part because of the desire to survive, survival of the fittest. So, but there are other dimensional beings on the planet, and there are extraterrestrial beings with us, walking with us. I have photos of them. I've taken photos of them. We are not the only intelligence walking on the planet. So you can imagine how impactful that is for us as a species moving forward. One of the biggest absurdities in the world today, to me especially, is racism. Nothing is more appalling, disgusting, or perverted, as far as I'm concerned, than white supremacy. What's happening to white supremacy today? They're scared to death that the times are wiping it out. And the times are. That's exactly what's happening. So the impact of privilege is dissolving. And it's going to continue to. The absolute necessity to respect one another and to actually know each other. So by respect, I don't mean we kind of go out and say hello to our neighbor, then we go back into hiding with our prejudices, our stereotypes, our hidden agendas. It's not going to work. It's all dissolving. Now you can go with the flow and let things dissolve and learn how to live with that. That's what you can do. That's the wisest thing to do. Or you can do what other pockets of the population are doing, and you can try to fight it, and you can fight it in all those ways that are available to us because we've been an enormously self-destructive species. Or we can try to keep meeting the crises with other values and incorporate them in our daily lives and move forward. And those are our choices right now. Now I'm going to talk about the tarot card, the Sun, which is a Leo sun. It's ruled by Leo. And it represents strength, and it also represents, again, a very good outcome, a fine outcome for what your query is about. And the Sun right now, we are experiencing solar flares right now, which are outrageous. There's no filter between us and the Sun anymore. It dissolved 3 years ago. So the Sun has become really dangerous because we're not getting protected from the Sun like we used to anymore. And that's a lot of that has to do with pollution, but it also has to do with the cosmic design of the planet, frankly. And so there's, in some respects, there's things we could have done about it had we been more conscious as global citizens. And however, here we are. So the solar flares, I want to talk about that for a moment because they increase your fatigue level. You may find yourself getting tired all of a sudden and not even getting tired first. Like sometimes people get tired first, then they know they're getting tired, then they have to decide what are they going to do if they're tired. Can they take a nap or not? No, these solar flares are like, you're tired, you're going to sleep. You're going to have to do whatever you can to be unconscious for at least 20 minutes or a half hour. This is what's happening to people culturally and also regarding chronological age. It's not a generational problem. It is a multi-generational reality that we're facing, that psychologically we're fatigued from the solar flares because they're penetrating our bodies. There's no protective barrier. Why are they doing that? Well, this is a little alarming. I find this alarming. I don't tend to get scared from more information. I tend to get alarmed, and then I process the information. That's how I tend to work. I wasn't always that way. Life taught me to do that. Life showed me it's healthier to go about it this way. What happens with the solar flare is they're changing our DNA. It's actually changing our DNA. So you have to realize that if you're eating peculiarly, or eating less than you used to eat, or you're needing more and more of a food you consider very bad for you, do it. Just do it. Just do it. You're going to survive it. You'll live through it. It's just change, because the solar flares are too much for your physical body to take out and to take in and take out and take in, because we're inhaling and we're exhaling. We're inhaling and we are exhaling. We are all becoming one, whether we like it or not. Human nature is becoming one, and it's becoming one with divine nature. And the solar flares are changing our DNA. So when you hear people walking around, and I go out quite a bit and socialize quite a bit, and people are going, I don't know what's going on. I'm like exhausted. And I just got up like an hour ago. But it's really psychological exhaustion. It's psychic fatigue, because the stress of what you're living through is tremendous. It's tremendous. And that's not even other aspects of your life that are difficult or challenging or simply demanding, that also contribute to stress. So the best thing to do is to really rest. If it means you're going to be quieter than you usually are, be quieter. If people inquire and go, wow, you don't seem to be the same, go, I'm not. I'm not the same. How could I possibly be the same? I'm changing. So just change according to what's best for you. And that's the wisest thing to do. And this is what the sun is doing. And it's doing it without our permission. Our country is an interesting country. But when you consider white supremacy in the country, a lot of its value has been having control over oneself and control over others. And all you have to do is go to the media. The Northampton open media is an exception to the rule. But you can look around at media and see how deeply they try to influence our perception of reality. So in any event, we want to look at the positives of that, not the negatives, but there are both. But the sun is changing you. So if you're going through changes, go through the changes, because in a sense, you're finding out who you really are. Because you have to realize these flares are really going inside of our bodies, and they are changing our DNA. You can read more about that anywhere on YouTube and different articles, because it is the truth. So just realize, well, I'm undergoing a change, and I didn't ask for it, and I don't know very much about it, but I'm undergoing a change. I find that helps you change. It helps you wake up and feel a little better about what you're going through that you have no control over. Because the solar flares are going to keep up, and they're going to keep up, and they're going to keep up. They're not going anywhere. So I think that's about it. The next card is the World, and the World card in a reading is really a lovely card. It shows you that you have broadened your horizons. It shows you that something is coming forward for you, that it's going to connect you more to unity consciousness, to part of what you're hoping for yourself, that the world is supporting you. It is not in opposition to you or to your goals. It is actually nurturing and feeding your goals. You don't have to know what the outcome is of this card particularly, but the World card is a good one. It means you're opening up. You are expanding your consciousness. You are going to be moving forward. Things are coming forward for you, in cooperation with you, in harmony with you. And I think that's also a lovely aspect of tarot, is the World card. So I want to thank you very much for listening. It's been wonderful to do this show today for you, and we'll have more call-in shows in the future. Have a wonderful day, and I'll talk to you next time. You can call me at 413-282-8538 for readings or for media events, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you.